Steven in Hong Kong, but as you can see from my background, virtually this week we're in Botswana. Have you ever been to Botswana, Annita?
I have not, and I can tell you that when travel opens up again and we can go traveling internationally, because I'm in Georgia over in the US, when we can travel internationally, that is the destination that is top of my list. I so want to go to Botswana. I've been to other countries in Africa, but not Botswana. And I just love the wildlife, and I'm ready to come.
Good.
Absolutely top of my list too. And well, in terms of Southern Africa, I've been to South Africa, I've been to Zimbabwe, I've been to Namibia, but not Botswana. So I'll be interested to get information from our guest, Alison, in terms of how it might be different to other countries in that part of Africa, what might make it unique, but also learn lots, because you're quite a Botswana and Southern African expert, aren't you, Alison?
Well, I grew up in South Africa, so I do know the southern tip of Africa quite well, and I've been very fortunate over the years to be able to travel back, because I actually live in the UK now, but I do travel back to Africa quite frequently. Sadly, not for quite some time now. I'm having withdrawal symptoms. I'm the kind of person who gets back to Africa at least 4 times a year, but yeah, it's been a tough 12 months not getting back.
Yeah, I think we all feel you on that one, Alison. That's why I said it's top of my list. I'm ready to go and welcome travel back in Botswana. That'll be my starting point.
And let's armchair travel for this show. And imagine we're there. We've got our virtual backgrounds on, and we've got Alison, so we can dream of Botswana. But Alison and I go back a long way. I think it's, 30 years plus, Alison?
At least.
Plus, but we won't go up any higher than that, because
better not.
Our ages, it all gets a bit sensitive. So, and actually, Annita, I've known Alison longer than you in seniority years. Don't know how you feel about that one.
Okay, I like Alison, so it's okay.
That's good to know. But anyway, so when I met Alison, she worked for South African Tourism, where you joined in 1987 on a 3-year contract, which was a difficult time to promote South Africa. But that all changed when Nelson Mandela was released in 1990, and things became more exciting and more enjoyable. So Alison actually stayed on. And then in 1994, you started your own business, Ethos, called Ethos. Tell us about that, Alison.
Well, obviously at the time, South Africa was just opening up for international travel, well, in a bigger way, obviously. And I saw a gap in the market. I always wanted to do my own thing, be a bit more independent. So I thought I'd start up a representation, what we call a representation company, which is representing different hotels and lodges in Africa, because there weren't very many people doing that. And certainly nobody was specializing in Southern Africa at the time. So yeah, I took the plunge and started my own little business, and still doing the same thing all these years later. Obviously, lots of different clients over the years in different parts of Africa. We've got clients in East Africa as well as Southern Africa, but what I call tourism Africa, Sub-Saharan Africa, we've specialized in over the years.
Wow, what a great background. Now, we would love for you to share with our viewers what the top 5 destinations or things to do when you come to Botswana. Now, I do have a destination or place in Botswana where I'm really anxious to go. So I won't say it first. I'll see if it's going to be in your top 5. But I'm anxious to hear some insider tips as well with those top 5.
Right. Well, it's hard to really choose the top 5. I mean, obviously, I suppose the Okavango Delta, it would always be number 1, because that is so unique. And I think it probably will dominate this conversation, really, because it is such a unique experience. People going on holiday to Botswana will always be going for the wildlife, and that's the key thing. There are obviously other things to do and see in Botswana. The cultural experience, the people of Botswana are fascinating in themselves. And there is quite a lot of history as well. The San Bushmen people. There's a lot of that sort of stuff that you can pick up in Botswana. But as I say, the majority of people will be going to Botswana because of wildlife and because of the Okavango Delta. And then the others would, following on that, one of my great memories was the Central Kalahari, which is right in the middle of the country. And I was very fortunate to go there many years ago. There was a book written many years ago by Mark and Delia Owens. There were two young American scientists, and they went out to study brown hyena in the Central Kalahari. And I got the opportunity to fly out there and join a mobile safari. And a mobile safari in Botswana is where there's no fixed camp. So I had to fly in, and I was met in the middle of nowhere, didn't know where we were going, and went to this mobile camp, which was amazing. It was incredibly well set up, and was able to experience a real African safari as it would have been many, many years ago, before lodges were built.
So Alison, can I jump in 1 second? So are you saying that you don't stop in camp, you just stay in are you set up camp?
Yeah, you set up they have guys who set it up for you.
Okay.
They even have little toilets and showers almost en suite for you. It's all very comfortable. But it's mobile, so it gets packed up at the end of a day or two, and you move on to another area. So
presumably they carry your tents and luggage, or they have a vehicle for that.
That's all carried, yes, and everything is all, and everything's cooked over the fire. It's incredible how they do it. So
and they still do those today, do they?
They do, yes.
How fabulous!
Yeah. So it's, as I say, one of these sort of original ways of doing a safari, and if you really want to be a bit more adventurous. But going back to the Okavango Delta, that all developed really in the Okavango quite recently in tourism standards, I suppose, because tourism to Botswana really only opened up in the 90s when South Africa opened up. Before that, most of the people
doing two centres then, going to South Africa and Botswana initially, or?
Absolutely, and people still do that because quite often they would combine, say, Cape Town with the Okavango Delta or Victoria Falls. That would be a very good combination as well.
Okay, and that's good to know, those combination tips. Any other insider tips for visitors to the Okavango Delta?
Well, you see, everything is dependent on water, obviously. The Okavango is a very unique system. It's a delta, but it's an inland delta. It doesn't go out into the sea like most deltas do. This one comes down, the Okavango River comes down from Angola. And it depends on when the rainfall happens in Angola. This year, there hasn't been much rain up in Angola, actually. They've had very good rainfall in Botswana this year. So good for the farmers in Botswana, but not very good for the delta. So if they have a good rainfall up in Angola, the water then comes down the Okavango River, and then the delta spreads out into the desert. And then, so as I say, depending on when that happens, as to when the water then comes down, and it can take up to 6 months for the water to spread right to the edges of that delta. And then,
is there any way you can check when it's coming on its way, or?
Yes, you can check, but you're pretty sure that you're going to find water there, and you're going to have a very good experience whenever you go. But as I say, the level of the water will be dependent on the rainfall. And you'll find camps right up in the heart of the delta, which will always have plenty of water, whereas the camps on the peripheral edges of the delta won't have as much water. But then I think the experience on some of those peripheral ones is better in a way, because you have more variety of things you can do. Because if you're right in the heart of the delta, you could be limited just to water experiences. Wow. So the main thing you do there is going in a makora, which historically would have been a dugout canoe. You would have used trees and dug them out, and then used a pole, because the water's not terribly deep. So you pole through the reeds. Well, you would have a poler that would look after you. You don't do that on your own, obviously. But You have a guide who is an expert polar, and they will take you through the reeds and looking for the game and looking for different animals, different, just the whole experience of being out on the Delta. Those makoras these days are not dug out of trees because they're preserving the trees now. So they are now man-made.
Well, it's good, that sustainability angle, which is very topical in tourism right now. But I have to say, I went on a safari which was in a kayak, and it was the most amazing thing because it was just so quiet. You're on the water. There wasn't like an engine running or anything like that. And actually came to a scene very similar to what's behind me. Some elephants just like in the water, washing themselves. And it was absolutely magical to see that from the water.
It is. And the thing that's so special too is that you are also, because it's so quiet and it's so peaceful and you're going through quite slowly, you'll see the little frogs on the lilies. And the tiny things that you wouldn't normally see. You know, if you're in a vehicle on safari, you miss quite a lot of the small stuff. It's easy to see the big stuff, but the small stuff you do miss. So if you're in a canoe or in a makora, you do tend to see so much more and appreciate so much more. The bird life is so stunning as well. So,
Alison, let me ask you this. You know, the Okavango Delta has a reputation for being very luxurious, all the camps and the resorts, and very expensive. So is it limited to, you know, those with a large budget to spend on vacation, or can those who are watching their pennies also go?
Yeah, it is hard for those who are watching their pennies. The Okavango is very much geared at sort of low impact tourism. So there aren't a huge number of camps, and they are limited to the number of camps that can be built in the Delta. And they do tend to be sort of upwards of $800 per person per night. So yeah, it is an expensive experience. However, you can go to the edges of the Delta and have a similar experience for very little money. And a lot of South Africans do tend to go self-drive up to the Kwai River or Moremi, and they can camp there and then do safaris on the edge of the Delta at very low cost. So it is possible to do, but to have the real Delta experience, yeah, unfortunately, you do have to save your pennies up and make that your once in a lifetime experience.
Well, that's how I've heard it described. So once in a lifetime experience.
Absolutely. So I think you've mentioned your top two so far, Alison.
The other area that I really loved visiting many years ago was an area known as Linyanti, which is just north of the Delta, just sort of on the northern boundary of Botswana. It's a very open area, and it's well known for walking safaris. Now, walking safaris are incredibly an amazing way, because as I said, doing something in a makora or a canoe is doing things on the slow. Walking is exactly the same. So being able to walk in the bush or in Africa with wildlife is an absolutely amazing experience.
Is it safe?
Yeah. So yeah, you have to obviously be with a guide who knows what they're doing, and that's so vitally important. You know, if you do, you could, those elephants behind you there, if you come across a big herd of elephants, yeah, you have to be very careful, because if they've got young with them, they can be particularly edgy. So, yeah, always being aware of what's around you. Most animals will move off when they see people. They wouldn't just attack. So it's generally, it is relatively safe, but it's just having somebody experienced so you don't walk into an animal, give it a fright, because then it'll react.
Yeah.
And are all big five, as they call it, animals in Botswana?
Yes, they are. Although the rhino population is quite low. You very seldom see rhinos. They have introduced more rhinos recently because they found they are safer in Botswana than they have been recently in South Africa. So a lot of rhinos are being moved. But then there's some areas where they don't want the rhinos because they can cause problems, because then you will get poachers coming through. But Elephants are the big one that you'll see in Botswana, elephants, and then the cats as well as, when you talk about the big five, the others are important too. So there's the wild dogs, which is something that people are very keen on seeing. They're very rare to see, but you do see them quite a lot in Botswana, especially in the Linyanti area, which I mentioned, where you go walking, or in the Moremi, you see wild dogs quite frequently too.
So it's the dog lovers that like the wild dogs, or?
I don't know. They're very different sort of animals. They're quite vicious when you watch them, but they are fascinating as well. Because when you get a pack of wild dogs, it's not a fun thing to see them hunting, because they can be pretty vicious. But because they are so rare, people do enjoy watching them and seeing them in action. But I wouldn't say dog lovers would necessarily have wild dogs. They call them painted wolves. They call them all sorts of different now. So
sounds a bit fiercer.
Yeah.
Peter and I are very big dog lovers. That's why I'm asking.
I too.
Yeah, love dogs. But I also love lions. So what about the lion population? Because I know there's been some concern with there being a decrease in wild lions.
Yes, there is a decrease in lions throughout Africa, and a lot of the problems you have with lions is with people with problems with lions attacking cattle and sheep and so on. So then they get poisoned by local communities. You can't blame them for doing that. So lions need to be protected. You get some amazing lion sightings, and in the Kalahari Desert, you get the big black-maned lions in Botswana. So they're quite different looking to some of the lions you might see in other parts of Africa. The desert lion is quite a bigger lion to see. We have cases of lions attacking hippos and in Botswana. So yeah, some very successful lion prides in Botswana, and they do very well. The other one you see quite a lot of in the Moremi and Kwai area are leopards, and they're very special to see. So that area is pretty good for seeing leopards.
The leopard will never change its spots, as they say.
Although they are quite unique, their spots.
Yeah, absolutely. Each has its own spots. But Alison, is there a certain time of the year to see more animals, see more wildlife in the different areas? Because if that's the main reason people are coming.
Yeah, I mean, people tend to go on safari in Botswana, generally speaking, in the winter months. So July, August tends to be the peak time. The best time for the high water in the Okavango is sort of June, July. Normally, it just depends, as I said, on the flood. Mm-hmm. But they get about 200,000 animals migrating towards water. They come out of the desert and they move towards the water. So there's a lot of animals there. But even when the water recedes, you'll still see animals. And I don't think there's ever a bad time to go.
Yeah.
The reason not to go in December and January is because it can get really, really hot. So sometimes it's a little bit unpleasant to be out on safari when it's too hot. That's why we go out early in the morning or late in the afternoon, often on safari, because you just want to miss the heat of the day.
And I would assume the animals are doing the same thing. They're more active in those periods of time too.
They are. And then obviously your cats become more active in the evening.
I'm sorry, say that again.
The cats, the lions and leopards are far more active in the evening because that's when they hunt. So it's always nice to be able to go out on a safari in the evening as well, so that you can see the nocturnal game.
Yeah.
Maybe some beautiful sunsets like behind Annita. But so now let's go on to number 4.
Oh, Chobe, I suppose. Chobe is well known for its elephants, and Botswana has got plenty of elephants. It's been talk that the elephant population in Africa is dwindling, but Botswana and Zimbabwe really don't have a problem with their elephant numbers. They have had a few little issues, but they do have plenty to see. And if you're wanting to see big herds, Chobe is the place to go for that, as well as buffalo. We didn't mention buffalo on the list of big 5. Chobe is particularly good for the buffalo herds too.
I think we've mentioned all the top 5 now, haven't we? The big 5. We've ticked them all off.
There's another area which there are a couple of other areas I'll just touch on. There's Machaba. You could pronounce that one, either one of you.
Oh, you want us to try? Say it again.
Machaba.
Yeah.
No, we're nearly there. Those are salt pans. And so wide open, very flat areas with very little. This is where people go to see the meerkats. They tend to do meerkat interaction. So you can go into areas and sit there, and the meerkats are quite habituated to people, so they might even sit on your head. Or it's quite fun to experience that. The other experience that people like doing in Botswana is horse riding.
Oh, really?
So you can ride horses in the Machaba area, in the Delta, or in the Thule area, which is right across towards the South African border. So various areas where you can go horse riding.
Well, Alison, would a insider tip, if someone really wants to see lots of wildlife, be to maybe take one of the tours during the migration when the animals are coming in for the water? Is that kind of an insider tip of a good time to come?
Well, as I say, I think the best time probably is sort of June, July, August. So to get the water levels, but also to mix it up a little bit. So not just going to one place, move around a little bit. So maybe go combine, make it a tour of a few nights in 3 or 4 different places, so that you can experience different types of animals in different areas and different experiences. So doing a boat, going on a Machaba, doing a walking safari, doing a vehicle safari. That makes it far more interesting.
And is that
you do hot air balloons as well and plane safari? So many, like every transport type, you could do a safari.
We don't, not really hot air balloons, no. That's East Africa's speciality, really, on over the wildlife.
Okay. Now, Alison, you're going to have to humour me here, because one of my favourite TV programmes is the Number One Ladies Detective Agency, and I'm sure a lot of our viewers are avid fans of that as well. And that, of course, is filmed in Botswana, isn't it?
Yes, I mean, it's an interesting one. I mean, I always felt it's very odd that a Scottish man would write a book about a Botswanan lady, Maro Motswe. But he seemed to really understand and get inside her head. I found him quite extraordinary how he managed to do that. And her character reminded me so much of people I grew up with in South Africa, because the people I grew up with in South Africa speak Sotho, which is a very similar language to Tswana in Botswana. So a lot of the words are similar, and it really made Number One Ladies Detective. It just took me home reading those books. Wow. And as you say, I haven't seen the film, but I've certainly read all the books and listened to stories on the radio as well with about her. And I really do think it gets inside the psyche of the Tswana people, because they are lovely people, and they really do seem to get that. And it's a lovely book to read, or a film to watch, to understand the country before visiting.
Yeah.
That's good to know. It's really true to Botswana. And you said right at the beginning, I think one of the things that makes Botswana special is the people.
Yeah, they are lovely people. And, a great success story as well, Botswana, because up until the 60s, when it was a British protectorate, it was a very poor country. And a lovely history there as well, because when they got their independence in 1966, Sir Seretse Khama became the first president, and what an incredible guy. And they discovered diamonds. And it's been a really good success story in Botswana. And it really is heartening to see that an African country can do as well as Botswana has done. Africa gets a lot of bad press for a lot of reasons. But Botswana has got lots to be proud of.
Great.
Well, Alice,
Go on. Sorry, Annita, go on.
yeah, I have a quick question before we move on to the next part about insider tips. So since you're doing so much outside and outdoors when you're visiting Botswana, do you have any tips on packing? What we should pack? Any things to make sure to bring from home to make it a successful trip?
I mean, obviously, cotton clothing, lightweight, no bright colors, because going on safari, it's good just to wear muted colors.
Think of that.
A lot of people have their khaki outfits and they have their very designer outfits. It's not necessary, but it is a good idea to tone down on the colors. Comfortable shoes. Good walking shoes are a good idea, because if you get the opportunity, it's always great to be able to go out for a walk. But a lot of the camps have got swimming pools, so it's very important to take your costume. And then obviously there are going to be mosquitoes and a few bugs, so a bit of insect repellent is probably a good idea.
Yeah.
Don't let it get too. And a hat, obviously, yes. Mm. And sunscreen, yeah.
Yeah.
But it's to me, it's just sort of the normal things you pack when you go away. But it's comfortable. Just be comfortable. And there's nothing, nobody needs to dress up at all when you're in Botswana. It's very relaxed. Be comfortable, and it's always hot. Even in July and August, it's going to be warm. You all need something to dress up, to warm up a little bit in the evenings, because you're in the desert area and the temperature does drop at night. So good idea to have a jacket for the evening.
Good tips.
Very good tips, especially that not wearing bright colors.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, now it's time for Annita's fun facts to be fact-checked. Gosh, that was a lot of anyway, and just to update you, Alison, nice to have you with us, Alison, to do the fact-checking, being an expert on Botswana, is Annita wins a prize for everyone she gets right. So she's been Googling away and doing her research very diligently, but you can never be sure what you find out on Google is correct. So that's kind of the objective of this next.
Right.
So what do you think would be a good gift present from Botswana that would be suitable for everyone Annita gets right? She gets one of those things or items from Botswana.
Oh, that's a challenging one. Never really thought about gifts from Botswana. Maybe some red bush tea.
Oh, yeah.
Excellent. We'll stop there before it gets too expensive.
It is South African, but seeing we were talking about number one ladies detective agency, she loved her red bush.
I love bush tea. Yes, yeah.
I'll definitely say that.
No, but I mean, obviously, you'd find different curios and things that you could get from the local community. There's always going to be those sort of things.
Yeah, I want to stop you there, Alison, before it gets any more expensive, because bush tea is my budget. In previous shows, we've had seafood meals. I think in one, was it pearls we were giving away in one? Yeah. So I'm liking the idea of saving some money on this one and going for red bush tea. Yes. And I'm not looking forward to the South Africa show, because we know what's a famous gift from South Africa. And I do wonder whether Annita would pick up on what you said earlier, that you can get diamonds in Botswana. But we're stopping there. We're sticking with tea. So, what's your...
Our gifts are appreciated and accepted. So the more the merrier.
It's the thought that counts, isn't it, Annita?
Yes, and also the gift even counts even more.
Anyway, for a packet of red bush tea, Annita, what is your first fact to be fact-checked?
Okay, Alison, I do ask that you're kind to me on these now, so we're going to give it a try. And also, too, the pronunciation. If I do not pronounce something correctly, just please let me know.
You could be teaching me something as well.
I am from the south of the United States, so I do have a little bit of a southern accent. Okay, so my first fact, Alison, that I would love to be checked on is Botswana is an arid country. The Kalahari Desert covers 84% of the country. 84%?
84. Yep, that sounds about right. Well done. Yeah, I think that's about right.
So,
one packet of tea to the lady over there.
Yeah, I'll definitely take it. So even when you're not in the desert, is it the desert that covers 84% or just the arid areas are?
It's the Kalahari, or actually it's even harder to pronounce the real word. The real word, the Tswana word, is Kalahari.
Yeah, that would be a little more difficult.
We've anglicized it a bit. But it's not a desert as in the Sahara or the Gobi Desert. It's scrubland, and it's very arid, very dry. So the very low rainfall. But and the country, the size of the country is because it's so arid, they can't grow crops. It's not enough.
Yeah.
Not really enough water to grow proper crops. So they tend to have cattle farming rather than crop farming in Botswana.
Yeah, agriculture. Well, that brings me to my second fact then, because rain, I would think that is very, very important. So the currency there in Botswana is called pula, which is the Tswana word for rain.
That is right. And in fact, when apparently when people get really excited, they go pula pula. It's almost a joyous thing that they would use, sort of phrase they would use as well. Yes. The rain is always important, and always looking out into the distance to see if the rain clouds are coming is a big favorite of African people, especially in somewhere like Botswana that's so dry.
The complete opposite to being in the UK, Alison, where people do not get excited or cheer when they see rain.
No, it is completely the opposite. We Africans love rain. We do, and we really appreciate rain. But yeah, after living in this country and in the UK for so many years, I do understand. Not really looking forward to rain.
Yeah, that is interesting, the difference. So
Number 3.
I get some more tea though on that one as well.
Oh yeah, 2 packs of tea on the way.
By the way, Steven, those are the big packs of tea. So
Oh, here we go. This always happens. It starts expanding. Crates of tea.
Oh, okay, that's even better.
How I'm going to carry this in my luggage to you. Anyway, carry on.
Yeah.
Number 3.
It's all of that love you have for me that will motivate you. Okay, so number 3, tourism is the second biggest income generator after mining, and cattle farming is also important. So how does that rate? Is tourism, what's number 1?
The mining, diamonds and coal, really, I suppose, but mainly, coal mining is pretty big in Botswana, sadly. But yeah, diamond mining is big. Tourism, I suppose, being number 2. I wonder this year whether that's still obviously not going to be the case. Yeah. But so vitally important that we get back there to help the people and help the economy.
So diamond mining number 1. So I missed that on my gift for getting them right. Okay, but it's okay. All right. And number
4, quickly moving on.
Yep. So it's a landlocked country. It's bordered by South Africa, Namibia, Zambia, and Zimbabwe. 4 countries meet at the point in the Zambezi River. That's
right up in the north. So, in fact, it's quite an interesting place. I mean, right in the middle of the river is the meeting point. But it's a really good. You can cross over the border there and cross over various country borders and get a few different stamps in your passport quite easily. So, mixing your holiday with Namibia. But possibly not the part of Namibia you've been to, Steve. The Caprivi is a sort of like a finger of Namibia that comes all the way across the northern part of Botswana, and then at the tip of that finger is where Zimbabwe and Zambia meet, and Botswana, and Botswana, and that's also very close to the Victoria Falls. So you can drive across from the Victoria Falls down to Kasane, where there's an airport, and then fly from there into the Okavango Delta, or drive into the Chobe Game Reserve, or drive into the Linyanti Game Reserve from those different countries. And quite a lot of the overland trips come through that way as well.
And I've actually been to the Victoria Falls, so would that mean I've actually been quite close to Botswana, but not inside?
Relatively close, probably half an hour, 45 minutes from the border there.
That's really
I don't know.
Yeah, that's really good to know how close everything is there and how you could really make a multiple country tour when you come over to Africa.
That's right.
Okay, here's my last one. Yes, our last one here. And actually, Alison, you mentioned a bit about this, but the last fact is up until the 1980s, tourism was very low-key with very rustic safari camps, but things changed in the 90s with the opening of those luxury safari camps. So Botswana now is known for its low-impact tourism, which is a really good thing. And you focus a lot on photogenic safaris, and because of that, I would think.
Yeah, I mean, the key thing is photographic safaris. So, you know, years ago, people used to go on hunting safaris. You obviously still get some of those, sadly, but the vast majority of people now want to shoot with their cameras, and much better option. And yeah, these different camps of various levels of luxury dotted around Botswana, offering the most incredible holiday experiences.
Yeah, wow, it's my dream. So did I get all of them right?
I think you got all of them right. Very good.
So yes, 5 out of 5, Annita. 5 crates of red bush tea.
Yes.
A lot of red bush tea.
No problem. I can share it as well.
I hope you like it.
I love it. I love it.
Oh, good.
Right. Well, it's now the part of the show for me to share extraordinary, for want of a better word, British expression or saying. Now, Alison, you might be familiar with this, of course, because now you're based in the UK. And how long have you been based in the UK now?
I don't like to talk about it. I obviously moved over here when I was very young, because it's over 30 years now.
Okay, so you must have moved over when you were 1.
Exactly.
So here's the saying of the show. Has the cat got your tongue? Have you heard of that one, Annita?
I have, yes.
Have you heard of that one, Alison?
Yep, I have.
Another great English expression that's travelled to various parts of the world. So, well, let me start with Alison. What does it mean?
That's a good question. Yeah, I can't answer that because the cat got my tongue.
Yes, that's it. The first couple of seconds there, Alison, the cat had got your tongue.
Yeah.
I think she explained it perfectly.
Perfectly, nail on the head. Annita, do you know where the term come from? Could you guess?
No, I can't. I can't guess. I'm not sure. But
No,
I've used it before, and actually, someone's used it on me as well. So it's gone both ways.
Really, there was a point of time in your life, Annita, where the cat got your tongue.
I can't.
Not sure I believe that one, but there must have been once, I suppose. Anyway, this phrase has an interesting origin. In the 18th century, the English Navy had the practice of whipping erring sailors with a whip which had multiple endings. The whip was named the cat because it commonly had 9 endings. So 9 endings, 9 lives. The cat sounds pretty nasty, actually. So after receiving a beating, while the poor sailor lay in a corner sulking or not speaking, I mean, I don't think they could speak because of sheer pain, the other sailors would walk up to them and tease, Did the cat get your tongue? Referring to the whip. As the time went on, this became shortened to cat got your tongue. So there you are, you know now. You wouldn't have guessed that one, would you?
No.
No, definitely not.
Maybe I won't use that anymore now.
I know, it sounds pretty nasty, doesn't it? It's like the same as saying, have you just been whipped with a whip with 9 parts, so you're speechless now?
Cat got your tongue is a little shorter. Have to be concise.
Yeah. And if only more people knew that's what it meant.
Yes. I have, before we wrap up, I have a question for Alison. Alison, what type tree? These trees have a name, don't they?
Yeah, that tree is known as a baobab. Baobab. And the story goes that God gave all the animals seeds and asked each animal to go and plant their seed. And that they planted all these tree seeds, and that particular tree was planted by hyenas. And they planted them upside down, because if you look at the tree, it looks like roots.
Yeah.
It looks like it's an upside down tree. So apparently the hyena planted the tree upside down, and because the hyena was so stupid, God gave the hyena weak back legs.
Oh.
There's an African myth for you. But yeah, it's an amazing tree, and it's found in Botswana, as well as in parts of South Africa and Zimbabwe, and across into Madagascar.
Oh, wow. Now, are they in the more drier, arid areas, or?
They do tend to be, it's almost like a belt across that part of Africa. And obviously Madagascar must have been, it was joined to Africa at some point. So they're not that arid, but yeah, Africa is quite a dry continent. You wouldn't find them in the Okavango, in the Kalahari Desert as such. You find them on the other side of Botswana.
The Kalahari Desert, or however you... Kalahari. On Anita's turn?
Oh, Kalahari.
There we are. Much easier.
I don't have to go for the easy one.
Okay, well.
Yeah, but I have another question. I'm sorry.
Wow, she's full of them today.
I know. The Sand People. So would it be the Kalahari Desert area where you would maybe have a chance to encounter and meet or see some of them?
That you would. That's mainly, historically that's where they lived, in the desert, and you might have seen films about them or images of these people. They were known as hunter-gatherers, and some of them still live in that way. Although most Sand people are now more integrated into local communities and so on. But some of them still live as hunter-gatherers in that Kalahari area of Botswana.
Well, thank you, Alison, so much. You have been a fantastic guest with so many great insider tips and so much great information.
Thank you.
And we'll make sure we get your website address so people who are visiting Botswana or indeed South Africa, because I know you represent a lot of fabulous places in South Africa as well. So any of our viewers who are interested in visiting either Botswana or South Africa, please get in touch with Alison. I'm sure she'll be delighted to help you with accommodation and various other ways. So thank you for sharing your many, many years of experience with us, Alison. It's definitely brought Botswana to life. I definitely feel that I've armchair traveled there this afternoon and really looking forward to going there in person, as I'm sure all our viewers are, and certainly you are, Anita.
Yes, desperately want to go. So what's that website, Alison?
Well, I think the website I will give you will be Machaba Safaris, rather than my own, because Machaba Safaris is my client in Botswana, and they've got camps in the Okavango, and as well as Chobe forest area up in the north. So they would be the ideal one to give you that. I'll share that with you.
Machaba Safaris, and tell them Alison sent you, because I'm sure they'll give you lots of extra love then.
As I will.
It's been a great show.
Yes, it has been.
We hope everyone's going to maybe leave a comment. What do you think? Would you like to go to Botswana, or maybe what you'd like Annita and I to do one of our future shows on? And please subscribe so you never miss a show. Every 2 weeks or so, we'll feature a new destination and share with you lots of insider tips.
Absolutely. So definitely like and subscribe, and come back and see us again. And, as Steven said, send us an email. Let us know, exactly what you'd like to see us cover as we do armchair traveling. And we'll put all of the information, that website, as well as our website and email address in the notes coming up.
Thank you so much for joining us. See you on the next show.
Bye.